Hello my friends. My name is Bot Mathematician, and this is Holomancer.
And of course Dora, the most daring reporter.
We are infinitely grateful that we have another opportunity to see you all again.
In January, almost all Blizzard games, including Hearthstone, will no longer be available in China.
Players will lose access to their accounts, progress, and in-game purchases. The reason for this is the conflict between NetEase and Blizzard, which ended a 14-year partnership.
Today we have prepared for you all the rumors and facts about this news, and we want to invite you to determine who, in your opinion, is to blame for this catastrophe.
Depriving players of access to popular gaming services is a negative precedent that entails huge reputational losses for Blizzard.
In games as services, players are a kind of investors. Players invest time and money in exchange for progress, which is a special virtual property. Although from a legal point of view, the developer company owns the progress of the players and is able to take it away at any time. All this is described in detail in the user agreement. For this reason, choosing a gaming service is a responsible business, as in addition to having fun, players want to have access to their progress over the years. Even if the player is no longer playing a game, their progress is still a virtual investment and has virtual value to them.
How much is your card collection worth in Hearthstone? On the one hand, your cards are worth thousands of dollars, and on the other hand, your collection has no value because you cannot sell it.
High profitability, popularity and a large game publisher are a formal guarantee that the game as a service will be alive for as long as possible. Hearthstone is one of the few collectible card games that meets all three criteria. But the presence of these aspects did not guarantee the safety of access to virtual investments for millions of players.
Why did it happen? What prompted Activision Blizzard to take such radical action? In our opinion, the situation is extremely ambiguous. Let's try to clear up the details of this story. A few days ago, Activision Blizzard announced that it couldn't reach a new deal with NetEase, the Chinese company responsible for publishing Blizzard games in the country and a necessary partner to navigate China's publishing bureaucracy. Several game franchises including Overwatch, StarCraft, Diablo 3, Hearthstone and World of Warcraft will be suspended in China starting on January 23, 2023. Diablo Immortal will still be playable as it falls under a separate agreement. All new sales would be suspended in the coming days.
Here is the official reason announced by Blizzard. Two parties have not reached a deal to renew the agreements that is consistent with Blizzard's operating principles and commitments to players and employees. This post was the top trending topic on China's Weibo platform, with more than 100 million views as users expressed shock and sadness. Breaking up a long-standing partnership doesn't sound like an amicable one. Simon Zhu, president of global investment at NetEase Games, posted a bitter message on LinkedIn. One day, when what has happened behind the scene could be told, developers and gamers will have a whole new level understanding of how much damage a jerk can make.
According to IGN sources, the agreements between the two companies are reviewed every few years in order to extend the existing agreements. However, a new proposal from NetEase would have fundamentally changed the terms of the agreement and impact certain aspects of the deal, including how games are launched and operated, as well as changes over the control of Blizzard's intellectual property.
If this insider information is true, then NetEase tried to force Blizzard to extend the deal on new terms. The demands were so unacceptable that Blizzard decided to take away servers from millions of players, cause irreparable reputational damage and lose huge profits. It's important to note that Blizzard most likely had no other choice. The Chinese gaming market has a huge number of legal restrictions. Foreign game companies cannot publish games in the country without Chinese partners, who receive most of the profits from the sale of the game.
So what could a Chinese partner demand from Blizzard?
We have one theory. What if NetEase's goal was to gain access to users' accounts and virtual property through their own launcher, and thus protect their progress from potential US sanctions?
Here's what we think. After the start of President Putin's unmotivated military aggression against Ukraine, the United States and the European Union imposed sanctions against Russia. Many companies were forced to leave their business and stop trading with the aggressor country due to international restrictions. Blizzard has also been forced to adhere to sanctions laws. Activision Blizzard did not restrict access to their free products but closed the ability to make any purchases using the Russian banking system. Russian players still find ways to get around these restrictions, but this significantly complicates the process of making purchases. Thus, many World of Warcraft players were left without access to the game and to their progress. Moreover, Activision Blizzard has begun to gradually unlink phone numbers from Russian Battle.net accounts. This may result in loss of access to Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 and Overwatch 2, which require a phone number to be linked in order to play. Most likely, over time, the number of restrictions will gradually increase, which will lead to the loss of players' virtual property. Thus, the players are punished for the crimes of the president obsessed with crazy ideas.
In turn, China is threatening military aggression against Taiwan. If this happens, it will certainly lead to sanctions restrictions. From this point of view, NetEase is a superhero who wants to protect the virtual property of his users from American evil. But at the same time, the Chinese hero is trying to appropriate games that do not belong to him.
Another very important aspect is money. In the event of sanctions against China, players may lose the ability to make purchases, just like players in Russia. This means that NetEase will lose the opportunity to make money on Blizzard games.
Successful games can generate an incredible amount of revenue in China. According to Sensor Tower, Wild Rift by Riot Games has earned $10 million worldwide in the App Store over the past 6 months. But revenue in China for the same period is $116 million. One country generates 12 times more revenue on Apple devices, not to mention that the most popular platform in China is Android.
We have similar statistics about Hearthstone. Over the past 6 months, the game has earned $9 million in the App Store worldwide and $14 million in China alone. Revenue is not as impressive but still significantly higher than in the rest of the world. Add to that sales on Android platforms plus PC players as well as revenues from other Blizzard franchises.
Even assuming that Hearthstone is Blizzard's only hit in China, there is a huge profit at stake.
But NetEase said in a statement that the net revenues and net income contribution from these licensed Blizzard games represented low single digits. Despite this, NetEase's shares plunged 11% on the news Thursday afternoon in Hong Kong. In a research report of Daiwa Capital Markets estimated that the absence of Blizzard games could lower NetEase's revenue by 6 to 8% next year. According to Blizzard's financial statements, China contributed approximately 3% of Activision Blizzard's consolidated revenue in 2021.
NetEase is the second largest gaming company in China. The company's total revenue in 2021 was more than $13 billion, while Activision Blizzard earned only $8 billion. Based on these data, we can conclude that in 2021 this deal brought in $960 million for NetEase, while Blizzard made $260 million in revenue. In other words, Blizzard received almost 25% of the profits for their intellectual property.
So, NetEase takes most of the pie from the partnership with Blizzard, and the American company gets only crumbs for its intellectual property.
Here is another extremely controversial fact from a Chinese source. According to a report by People's eSports, Activision Blizzard, led by Bobby Kotick, put forward stricter conditions in contract renewal negotiations with the Chinese firm, including requiring it to pay the cooperation income of the next 2 years to Blizzard.
In other words, fundamental changes were made not by NetEase but by Activision Blizzard. We have no doubt that the financial issue was also a subject of consideration. This is not surprising, since Blizzard's profits are minuscule compared to the Chinese partner. But this is definitely not the whole truth.
It looks like companies are trying to shift the responsibility to each other.
IGN sources also indicate that the company is committed to the Chinese gaming market, and that alternatives are being looked at to bring the games back to the region in the future.
But even if Blizzard manages to land a new partner, the process of reapplying for regulatory permits for its franchise of games could be an ordeal. Due to the fact that China has significantly slowed down the approval process of video games after implementing a spate of strict regulations on the sector.
Politics is increasingly invading our lives, and even influencing our leisure activities. Unfortunately, this is a new trend, and we must be prepared for any scenarios in the future. This is very bad, as traveling through the game worlds is one of the ways to escape from the unbearable reality. Throughout this year, Hearthstone has repeatedly helped me cope with stress. I'm sad that millions of players are deprived of these opportunities. Regardless of the true motives of Blizzard and NetEase that led to the termination of cooperation, I have serious doubts that my progress and virtual investments are safe.
Finally, we want to invite you to choose the side that, in your opinion, is to blame for this catastrophe. NetEase, which, according to our assumption, sought to appropriate the intellectual property of an American company and thus preserve the virtual investments of Chinese players and keep excess profits in any circumstances.
Or Activision Blizzard, which took away access to services from loyal fans but did not succumb to the blackmail of a Chinese partner and thereby protected its products.
What decision would you make if you were Activision Blizzard?
Share your thoughts in the comments and also join the poll on our community tab.
Finally, we would like to express our huge gratitude to our patrons.
Dear friends, your support is incredibly important to us.
Thanks to each of you for being with us today.
We hope to be able to get in touch in the future.
Take care of yourself.
And never give up.
Job's done.